So this is my newest deep water culture system. This whole thing is really a prototype for something that I think I could build for customers and have a respectable system. Now the inside dimensions of this tray are supposed to be 24 by 48, but in practical terms I think the float needs to be more like 23 by 47 to allow some clearance around the edges. This float has 50 holes in it for plants that are about 5 to 6 inches apart. And I think between mostly what you see here is some larger plants now, but I think something like this can hold a mixture of, say, more mature plants and younger plants so that you can maintain a continuous flow. The most obvious component of this system is this 2 foot by 4 foot tray. These trays come in a variety of sizes, 4 by 4, 3 by 6, 3 by 3, sometimes 4 foot by 8 feet. So depending upon the space that you have available, you can accommodate quite a few plants in this. The cost on this was about $80 new. The place where I go to get my supplies, the Hydroponic Connection in San Francisco, does get used trays in from time to time, and although I haven't bought any there, I would go to a place like that and offer them like 50 cents on the dollar for a used tray. And some of them do have holes from previous installations, and those would have to be blocked up for deep water culture, possibly using some of the Flex Seal products. Now a tray like this filled with water weighs about 400 pounds. So you have to think about that when you are building the support for the system. One thing about this system is that because of the way it's built on top of sawhorses is that it's a nice height, for working when you're standing, as opposed to having to bend over all the time to get at your garden. So given the weight of the water, this thing sits on a pair of plastic sawhorses that have a capacity of 800 pounds. So there is a 2-to-1 safety factor on this, and I recommend building systems this way. The main support structure on this is made from 2x4s. I didn't really need 2x4s for this, but basically 2x4s were really cheap, like $2.50 each, as opposed to like $6 for some more finished grade lumber. So it's overbuilt here, but and what you can see is that I've got 2 lengthwise supports, and then I have a total of 4 sideways supports. Now here up at the front, you see something that had to be taken into consideration in making these supports is that because of the way they're commonly used, these trays have a part that hangs down below the bottom of the tray. So the supports had to be spaced in order to accommodate this. The air for this system comes from a 60-gallon Tetra Whisper aquarium pump that's under this bucket to keep it dry during the rainy weather. And you can see that there's 2 tubes coming out of it. One feeds another system, so this is working pretty well. These pumps are nice and quiet compared to the other pumps that some people sometimes use. So that's pretty much the whole system. These systems are simple, they're productive, they're easy to build, they're cheap to build. The total cost of materials on this is less than $150, $80 or less for the tray, a couple of bucks for the raft, a couple of bucks, like $5 for the 2x4s. I paid about $40 for these 2 sawhorses, but you can get ones that cost less. So, and a pump would cost you maybe $30 at the outside. So that's a pretty reasonable cost. This is the support frame for the new deep water system that's going to be based on a 2 foot by 4 foot Botanicare flood tray. It's made with 2x4s, and I don't think I really needed the strength of 2x4s, but 2x4s were cheap. An 8-foot stud was about $2.50 versus $6 or so for a 1x4x6 of more finished lumber, so I think this is a better way to go. The 2 supports on the ends have 2 screws in them. These are 3-inch root screws, and I drilled an 1/8 inch pilot hole all the way through the top piece and partly into the bottom piece, and they seem to be pretty solid. So these were put in here to keep the thing parallel. All the other joints are single screws. Now, when laying out the supports on the frame, I had to consider some things about the way these tubs are made, which is at the end and on the side there's a portion that hangs down below the bottom of the tray, and these are there for use in flood and drain type systems. That's not what I'm building, so I just have to work around this particular feature. Here you see the support frame laying on top of the 2-foot by 4-foot tray. I just want to point out that here and here are the parts of the tray that extend below the general level of the tray, so that this frame was built to not have interference from those two particular areas. Now, down at this end, we see there's really no support below this, but I'm not sure there needs to be, because the water will tend to balance out the forces between here and here. Although if I feel it's necessary, I will put some blocks of 2x4 underneath these areas here if I have some kind of sense that it's warping.